A new Star Trek movie comes out this week, giving fans an excuse to rewatch their favorite Trek films in anticipation. But in our case, it's the perfect opportunity for Brian to sit down and finally watch Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, the one Trek film that is unanimously considered to be the best. Does it live up to that title? Find out here on Debt to Cinema. I'm Stephen Maltmanex.
And I'm Brian Gillis. Like most people, we love going to the theater and catching the latest releases. However, sadly, put a big dent in your wallet.
Fortunately, living in the digital age makes the viewing possibilities endless from the comforts of home.
Many of these films that you can see right from your couch, we're ashamed to say we miss, despite labeling ourselves cinephiles.
So join us as one or both of us cross off a title from our list of shame.
It can be an all-time essential classic,
Or an underrated piece of cinema that's worth giving a shot.
hell, it might just be some trashy film we want the other's opinion on. So sit tight and join us as we pay off our debts, $1 at a time.
I think between you and me, we're more Star Wars guys. That's
Yeah.
more of our thing. That's what we grew up with. And I was never a Star Trek guy. You know, I saw some episodes of the series.
Trekkies converted now.
Well, hey, I don't care. The war is stupid. It's whatever. But I mean, yeah, that show. I'm sure there's some good episodes now that I still have yet to get to, and there's some that I like, even though I've never seen the Space Seed episode
Well,
that this
what-
one's based around.
Are you talking about the original series right now, or...?
Right now, the original series. I tried watching some of the Next Generation, but even then, I was just kind of bored. But, I mean,
don't...
that was around high school when people were just trying to show me how awesome it was, and you know what? Things with philosophical ideas were not exactly going the same tempo with my brain at that point.
Like,
so
TNG is kind of my thing. I really dig that crew. I got like no relation to the original Star Trek. Captain Kirk. Obviously too young for the franchise when it was on TV. It only lasted 3 seasons to begin with. But most of the TV episodes that I've seen are the Next Generation. I've even seen some like Enterprise and Voyager, even Deep Space Nine. Like I've seen at least an episode of all this series. But the majority of the Star Trek movies I've seen are the Next Generation. Like I think I've seen all of them. I've seen Generations. I've seen Nemesis. I saw the one in between, and I really dig those. I like what's his name, the mad scientist from the guy who plays Data. Okay, I was trying to come up with his real name. I like Data. I like Joy LaForge. I like Picard. Fucking Riker. Like it's a way more interesting crew. Just the fact that they have a Klingon on the USS Enterprise is more interesting to me. And so I really didn't have a reason to check this movie out, despite everyone, it's not just one of the best Star Trek movies of all time, it's, one of the best movies of all time. Matter of fact, my stepdad, he walked in during, like, the final act when it gets, like, chaotic here. He's like, "Are you watching the best movie of all time?" I was like, And he, like, stayed in just, like, to quote it. And I'm sitting there going, in my head going, I've never seen this. I already know what happens. And now I got a Trekkie commenting and quoting it. And I'm
that
like,
is not the best thing.
Yeah,
not the best way to experience this.
it made me really go, yeah, I don't really like this movie. Like, more so than I was by myself. Because I did this in 2 parts. I watched the first kind of boring part last night, paused the thing, and then I picked it up this morning.
I don't know if I would call it boring, honestly.
Less
That's-
interesting.
Ouch.
The whole, like, here's a VR test to prove that your captain's, like, savvy.
That's not a VR. That's a simulation.
It's a simulation room, whatever.
It's the Kobayashi Maru, and that's a big deal. I mean,
I guess.
I mean, let me get back to the franchise real quick, because I think, even though it's only 2 movies in, I'm really looking forward to this next one from Justin Lin, and I think in the same way that I can say I'm a prequel child for the Star Wars universe, even though like I don't like those movies necessarily better, but I think just, yeah, I'm catching these new ones in theaters while they're coming out, and that's just the series I'm into. That's the variation that I'm into, and I freaking love that first reboot in 2009.
Not even just Chris Pine, but the entire crew that they cast in this franchise now. I care for all of them more than I care for anyone in the original cast. Like, I don't give a fuck. I look at them like, okay, they're really old.
I do care about them in this movie. I mean, this is the way that I feel about it. Is that series it's pretty corny, and even though I have not watched all of it, I mean, come on. There's a fucking clip on YouTube of Kirk fighting a lizard, and it's the fucking lamest thing ever. I mean, yeah, from what I've seen, it's pretty corny. I'm sure I'll still see some episodes and like it. I still need to see Space Seed. The first movie by Robert Wise, which, I don't think you've seen any of these movies,
No,
by the
yeah,
way, correct?
I've just seen Generations, and that's the one where Kirk. I still can't explain, even though I've seen it. Kirk somehow comes aboard the Enterprise during the Next Generation. It was like they're in between from making original movies and Next Generation movies, so they put him in the movie anyway. He's dead. He dies in a movie, I think, but it's like his ghost. They basically go to like a heaven planet, and they pick up his ghost, and he joins the ship. It's so bonkers. It's like almost as crazy as isn't there a Star Trek movie about whales also?
Yeah, and that's actually a good one. That's one of the good ones too. Yeah, as far as this series, I've only seen the first 4. The first one painfully
only
fucking
seen
slow.
the first 4.
I mean, here's the thing: is like I didn't watch this one until I was preparing to watch the new one from J.J. Abrams back in 2009.
Oh, you mean the second Wrath of Khan?
No. The first Star Trek. That was
The second Wrath of Khan.
Into Darkness has
Into butthole
some
territory.
serious problems. The worst things about it are when it references this movie. I mean, fucking Benedict Cumberbatch is a badass in that, but
He's
he
not
is no
yeah.
Ricardo Montalban.
Yeah,
Like he
it's
has a
a-
great presence. They both command the screen, but there is more dramatic power because Kirk and Khan have a dynamic here, and they
Not
have a shared
even-
history.
I don't think that's the
which is
thing.
non-existent.
I
in the other
haven't
one.
seen the episode or episodes from the show in which
Yeah,
Khan
it's-
is on there, but just
That's the one called Space Seed, and I think that's the only one.
his fucking appearance when he comes. First off, he takes off like that glove and he takes off the mask, and it's like that's just a real slow reveal. And then you see his badass '80s outfit where he's wearing like a ruffled vest with like his chest showing, but like there's no nipples, so it's okay for the family. He has this like
it's 80s
fucking
kitsch though.
gray
like, you're kinda laughing at it
mullet.
now.
No, I was looking
Oh,
at
I know
him.
you fucking love that. No.
I
mean,
was like,
it's,
he looks so
I did laugh a
badass.
little bit of it, but he is such a fucking badass. He stands there confidently. Like the moment he pops up on that view screen too with that 80s outfit, it's part of me is just chuckling like, dude, this is so fucking cheesy, but he stands there just confident as hell, just commanding the screen, and that's why he's one of the best villains of all time, according to a lot of people. And I have to agree with that. I mean, he's fucking badass.
No,
in this
he's a-
movie.
he's
I don't
a
give a
badass
shit.
villain.
I really don't give a shit like about that stupid debate of are those abs real? Like
What?
Nicholas Meyer
Who
says
the
it's
fuck
real. Whatever.
cares?
I don't care if Ricardo
Doesn't care.
Montalban's
It's a
is
movie.
real. It's Khan.
Yeah, it's a
like
movie.
that's what he looks like, and it looks real when it's on screen.
He's
so
a
that's
bad.
all I
Like
care about.
I really wish he had more of a backstory. Like I said, maybe I should check out the episode to see how they paint him. But I want to know about this super intelligence and why he's so shredded when he's like 80 years old, or like 280 years old actually.
Well,
Like,
I think if you saw the J.J. Abrams one, it uses the same history, even though when they get to
Even
that
still-
point in time, it's a parallel version of it. But they still
they don't quite give him a backstory in that either. Like I want like
no,
if-
they do. There is a scene, and it's it's right after they reveal that he is Khan, and it's a very good even though it's very exposition-y, it still says a lot about that character, and it's it's that one moment where Benedict Cumberbatch like sheds a tear. A really well acted scene, but fuck, that movie has problems too. Like they
Like,
never
if-
should have hid that he was Khan. I don't want to talk about that
if
movie,
they
even though I still
made
kind of like it.
this movie again and they started it off for just like 10 to 15 minutes of explaining who Khan is and where he came from and why Kirk fucking hates him, or vice
Well,
versa, why they
it's
hate
him
each
that
other.
hates Kirk.
It seems like they hate one another for some reason.
I don't. Well, the main thing is that
But if-
what Khan tried to do, the main summary of the episode is that they find Khan and his crew.
They bring him
and then
onto
they
the
welcome
ship,
him aboard the
and then they
Enterprise.
try to
and
take
then
over the
Khan,
ship,
Yeah, that's it. They talk about it, and so what he does is he maroons them. So it's really, I don't know, maybe it's different in the episode, but from this, it's not so much Kirk that hates Khan. It's more just Khan has been like left on this planet, which just
pretty fucked up to leave someone on a Mad Max planet.
Well, no, I mean, it became like they thought when they found him, they thought that they were on a different planet. Shit, I've seen this movie so many times that I'm forgetting what the official explanation of what happened was. Because, they're on SETI Alpha 5 when they thought it was
SETI
6.
Alpha 6, yeah.
Yeah, and then just, something happened that basically just screwed them all over, caused Khan to lose some of his crew, including his wife. That's years of contemplating revenge. So that is motivation enough.
Well, not
and that he's
revenge.
just coming in with
That's
nothing
not the
but
word
hate.
he uses in
Vengeance.
here. He
Okay,
says
vengeance.
avenge. I'm going to avenge you. I'm here to avenge my wife. Like,
Still, his story is a tale of vengeance, whereas Kirk's is just, that's,
I'm here
I think
for
really the
my
best
son.
thing about this movie and why people like it is that even if you don't have that much familiarity with the series, like, you've still seen enough of it, and you still recognize that world, and this is a movie where Kirk's having a midlife crisis and just contemplating all the things of his past, and this is his past literally trying to kill him. Yeah?
No, I agree with that, but
No, I
even
mean,
still, like it
just
didn't
doesn't hit you?
Yeah, it's not for me. Like it's not a bad movie. There's obviously great emotional beats, especially when you get towards the end. And let's just say it, everyone fucking knows.
Well, they're deflated now. Unfortunately,
this is the movie where Spock dies. Everyone fucking knows that. Like
Yeah.
the whole time I'm watching, I'm like, he's gonna die eventually. He's gonna die. He's gonna die. How's he die? And I get there, and because of that, just knowingness. Partially because of just everyone talking about it, like, oh, you haven't seen
Exactly.
Wrath of Khan's the one where Spock dies. Better yet, the third movie's called The Search for Spock.
I know this is like the original Phil Coulson, basically, and that any viewing of the Avengers now, honestly, like that
Maybe,
scene
I don't
does
know.
not have the same impact anymore, just because you know that it doesn't matter where. I mean, this
That's
like,
a lesser thing, though. Like, unless you watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I highly doubt people still talk about Coulson's death. Like, it's not a thing that comes
I
up.
I still know, like, I don't know what the official explanation was on the show,
It's
but
something
like, I
fucking
saw the
stupid.
ads, and it's like, I mean, yeah,
He's
the
a
first time I
clone.
saw the Avengers, that was a big thing that really like got you ready for the third act that was to come, like that. And I mean, that was a character that you grew up liking for
a couple
5
movies, yeah.
at that point when he came in and out, and then just for him to like, I mean, it's a Joss Whedon thing to do, to just kill people you love, but I mean, yeah, the impact of that moment, it just doesn't exist anymore. And I want to say it's kind of the same thing here. I was not around in 1982, but everybody else that saw this at the time, they had no idea that he was going to come back. And like, there was 2 years?
Yeah, they fucking did. This movie.
No, come on.
This
It
ends
doesn't-
with the big
No,
plot device of this movie is a missile that creates life. And throughout the whole movie, they're talking about,
gives you
here's
the
a
excuse.
nothing, barren place. You launch this missile. Look at this cave. Look how beautiful it is. And then even the way it ends with that
Yes,
with that
it gives
shot
them
of the
that
coffin
excuse.
on the Genesis planet.
Okay.
You know. I haven't seen Star Trek 3. I know for a fact Genesis
All right,
brings
here's the
them back
thing,
to
though.
life.
But the reason why they killed him off is because after the first movie was just kind of, it was a critical and, well, I think it was successful commercially.
Talking about Star Trek, the
but
motion
it wasn't
picture.
what they wanted.
Best title ever.
And it bored the shit out of people. Like, they spent so much money on just awesome visual effects and let these shots drag. It's kind of like Heaven's Gate in that way, in that
Heaven's
there are
Gate is
so many
awesome.
beautiful shots, but it just goes on and on and on and on, and is just so fucking boring, even though it's kind of beautiful to look at.
See, I disagree. I think Heaven's Gate is not boring.
I thought there was no emotion there. You can listen to that episode, by
I
the way.
don't
I think
need-
it's a movie worth checking out at least once in your life.
I thought that
But-
this was more boring than Heaven's Gate. Like, this
Oh,
seemed
man,
like
no,
an
because-
episode of Star Trek that's an hour too long. They could have cut out a lot of shit
No.
here, including especially Kirk's son, who
Well, here's the thing.
has
Let me
nothing
finish
to
off the
do with
point.
the movie, man. I mean,
Okay,
maybe in the next one he's important, but I was like, why is he taking up 20 minutes of screen time?
Okay, here's the thing is that, okay, well, first off, finishing off the Leonard Nimoy point, yeah, no, they didn't know they were going to bring him back, because the reason why that death scene happened is because Leonard Nimoy wanted out of the franchise. And then sure enough, this movie was so successful and people loved it, so they tried to find a way to bring him back and spend an entire movie doing that. And funny enough, that was a movie he also directed. But yeah, I mean, so that's why that happened. But okay, why Kirk's son isn't there in the first place?
Who the fuck
Because
gives a
this is
shit?
a movie. This is a movie where Kirk is having a midlife crisis, and he's
So?
contemplating his life and his legacy. That final scene with them, like that is a very important moment. Like, while you're getting to that emotional resolution, and I mean, even though yes, he says directly, he kind of spells out what the entire point of the movie is at that point, at least thematically.
in the final 5 minutes, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it totally makes sense that it should be a character's son to say that to me. So no, I mean, even though he's just a tool for that, and I know he's in the third one.
I know the doctor who Kirk fucked has to be important in terms of the show, but She's not vital here either. It's the missile, it's Khan, and it's the original crew, and then everyone else is just there for filler.
You're talking about plot, like, whereas I disagree. Those other things are important to Kirk as a character, and that's a big
I don't
part
care
of why
about
this.
him. I think personally, I think he's a real boring character.
See, that's the thing. We're talking about this once again. I mean,
In
compared to Heaven's Gate, which you were cool with of not having much character, but that's the thing. I do prefer movies that are rich with character.
Well, Captain Kirk is not a bad character, as proven by Chris Pine's version of him. I love that version. But here, like, you don't care for the philosophical wanderings of Jean-Luc Picard. I do. I think that's what makes him badass. Like, he tries to get into the mind. I still have
not seen that show.
Plus,
like, in a long time.
He's interesting because his villains are actually real viable threats. He's got Q and the Borg. It's like, what does fucking Kirk go up against? Klingons? Oh, that's scary. That's so scary.
Let's be fair. We have not seen the show. I mean,
I've seen enough of The Next Generation. I've seen probably like 30 episodes.
Okay, no, but we have not seen the original show. So,
I don't have to.
Hey,
like,
I know
why it's important.
For all I know.
I know why it's an important show. It kind of not revitalized, but it made science fiction hip in a way that Star Wars didn't. Star Wars is it's like a fantasy in space, whereas a lot of the innovations in Star Trek kind of influenced just inventors and innovators to make things that are on the show. I mean, throughout this movie, they're talking on watches. Oh, you can get a smartwatch and talk on it now. Like, there's almost everything except teleportation in this movie is viable now. Like, if someone were to spend enough money, you could get a spaceship that big, a starship, and fly it around, but it would cost so much money that you wouldn't want to do it.
Well, this is the 23rd century, first of all,
yeah.
So it's quite a ways away.
But I'm saying the Star Trek series is important because it helped. Among other things like Flash Gordon and countless others examples, Philip K. Dick's work, it helped influence people to create the technology of today by looking at the show that was supposed to be set in the future. It's like, oh, I never thought about doing that. Let me try to do that. And so that's why Star Trek, especially this original series, is important. I've never really cared for it. And I think it's in part the characters and how, despite how interesting they could be because they are in the JJ universe, I guess you could call it. Like Zulu here, real fucking boring. Like everyone besides Bones, I don't give a shit about. Like Chekhov is interesting too because I really like what they do with that earworm thing. Like that was pretty awesome.
Yeah,
that's probably the best.
Is nasty.
That's probably the best thing in this movie, to be honest, because it was the only thing I didn't really know about. Like I said, I didn't care about the sun. Khan was already.
Not only that is Khan's first scene. That's your chance to make an impression on the audience.
He totally makes a
by
good
that
one,
point, you totally buy him as a threat. Where he is not merciful at all. Like he, throughout just this entire movie, he's just confidently standing there, just pretty sure that he is gonna win because he really thinks he's so fucking smart. Like I love
he probably
his
is
little
that
lines
smart,
like.
But
yeah,
he's stupid when it comes to this.
Oh yeah, no, it's his hubris that's ultimately his downfall. I mean, he's thinking two-dimensionally the whole time.
Spock's like he's two-dimensional. He doesn't.
Yeah, but I mean, I love how he just stands there and goes like, "No, I don't have to give you my word at all. I just don't see it as you having any other option really because you're fucked and I'm going to kill you." Like it's just the presence of Ricardo Montalban. Yeah, everyone online has just praised it to death. I can't say anything new
I know
about
it couldn't
but
happen,
yeah, he's
but
a
I would have
badass
loved
in this movie.
if in that sequence he's like, "You're trying to fuck me over right now. You're trying to hack into my ship, blow these guys up," and then the movie ended. Like that would have. I know it's impossible, but if that were to happen,
no, but then he had Genesis.
If that were to happen,
he needed Genesis. Yeah.
Genesis.
Oh yeah, I was
Is that
the one
from this movie?
That's right.
Oh, okay.
That was from the next movie. Yeah,
no, I don't plan to.
Don't watch it.
No, I don't. I
can watch the one with the whales,
care
but
for this Captain Kirk.
I really think the one with the whales, you would enjoy that one because that's the one where they go back to 1980s San Francisco.
Okay, that sounds pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, that's the one that you would like.
Yeah, I might like that. But I don't know. I don't know what it is. Like I said, I care for the Next Generation, those characters. I think it's just how modern yet futuristic it is. And the threats are more viable, like I said, because this show is only, despite how many movies it spawned, 7 or 8, and then you can count the current 3, so 11 movies from a TV show that lasted 3 seasons, and they weren't even long seasons. But when it comes down to it, there's so much other. It's important because it was the first of its kind, but there's so much other stuff like Firefly or other Star Treks outside of Voyager, because that's the boring ass one where they don't even have warp speed yet. but there's so much other science fiction, and you started off talking about how we're more Star Wars guys than Star Trek.
Yeah.
It's never really interested me.
I
Like,
mean,
I'm not
as far as the spectacle too, like you just can't compare this to Star Wars because this is
Yeah.
5 years later. I mean, honestly, if you do that, like,
or a year
yeah, because I mean,
earlier,
the
put it
title
that way,
sequence
too.
in this is just so it's pretty dull and plain. But James Horner has a really good score in this, and the ships flying, it's not nearly as dynamic as the X-wings. It's just naval warfare throughout, and that suits this movie very well because it's not about the spectacle and the special effects on screen. I think some of them are recycled from the last movie, but it's just about the drama there of Kirk trying to outrun Khan. And I mean,
It's
yeah,
not
like
very
if you
dramatic
don't
for me, though.
see, yeah, if you don't buy into the characters, it's not so much, it's not previous establishment for me, but it's just that I did get a sense of, especially of Kirk just trying to basically contemplating on his life and on his place at that point because he's just not happy where he is. And it's just this sense that from everything I saw beforehand that there was this great history there. It did actually make it so that I could at least engage with these characters and have some sort of emotional resonance there. But I don't know. I still feel the scale of this movie, but it's funny because there just really isn't that much there. It's all really character driven.
It's
That's
all
it.
dialogue.
Yeah.
This is not much different than watching a submarine movie.
No, I mean this
Like,
is
pick
naval
one.
warfare.
Yeah,
Like, they're,
pick
they
any
may
submarine
pick that.
movie. You could, like U-571, fucking Das Boot, Crimson Tide, like any submarine movie. It's
Yeah.
basically this. It's like you got the crew on the board, and then you got the crew on the other ship, and then you got them communicating with each other, and then you got the fights. And
Exactly, and I think that's really fucking cool. Honestly,
it is
Like,
kind of
yeah.
cool. It's just,
After so many space movies like Star Wars, yeah, it's difficult
It-
to adjust to. I think
this is kind of like a episode of Star Trek with a kick-ass villain. Like, if it wasn't for how good Ricardo Montalban is here as Khan, and then I guess you could also say Spock's death, which has no effect on me because I knew it was going to happen.
Yeah, well, that's
If
a problem with culture
it
just
is,
hyping
you
it
know,
to death, and
Not even just
yeah.
that. It's just when you're this far removed. We're talking like 35 years almost.
I mean,
Since
we've
this movie
talked
came
about
out.
this too. Like, this is one of those
Yeah.
examples of someone praising that something is so great, and
Yeah.
you're just not going to react to it as positively. I mean,
Well-
my first viewing of this, I did not love it, but I at least really liked it. Like, this is the Star Trek
Yeah,
movie
I
that
I
you
didn't
can
disenjoy
sit
it.
down a normal person that's just an average go and go like, okay, you know what, that was actually pretty cool.
Yeah, it was. It was
Like,
kinda
I will
cool
stop
movie.
shitting on
I
Star
liked-
Trek now. Yeah.
I like some of the concepts. I like the Genesis missile. I liked like as much as I didn't like them in terms of the movie and the plot. I understood why Kirk needed a son, even though it wasn't fleshed out well. Like, I didn't disenjoy the film. It's just I can't believe that there's so many people out there that are like, this is the best Star Trek movie, because it's like, well, then what's that say for the other ones?
It really is, though, honestly.
That's what's weird. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think the first JJ film is better than this.
The first JJ film is my favorite, but like I think when I mainly say that this is the best one, it is mainly just looking at other variables and seeing that this is the original series, this is the first crew, and I totally see that this complements everything that came beforehand pretty well. Even the J.J. Abrams movie pretty well. Like, that does that too in the same way. Like, I like how they pay respects to this movie specifically and how they bring
Even
back the
though it's
Kobayashi
still,
Maru sequence.
Yeah, but even though it's
because
like
that's actually a big
low
part of that
blow,
movie. But
it's a punch in the balls.
How so?
When like the way they hit it from the fans and then they
oh,
switch
late,
it
no,
up
no,
to
yeah,
seem
that's
different.
in the next one. Yeah.
I
I mean, the problem with that
yeah, I thought that's
movie
what
is
you were
that
referring to.
sure, it can make sense because it's a parallel timeline at that point, but it's just it's a problem when people just are trying to treat things as a surprise when the fans are already a step ahead. And we had this conversation last night on Ghostbusters. I'm tired of references to past things. Do something new so that you can discover more things. Like,
Max Landis had like a great series of tweets today where he was talking about how like Terminator Genesis, Jurassic World, fucking Ghostbusters, and how even The Force Awakens are all the same movie, just done differently. And it's true. And I feel like these new Star Trek films are different. They're outside of that because they went for, the parallel universe thing that they tried. They literally paid
Well,
homage
so did
by
Terminator
tying it
Genesis. It did
in like a
it did the
lesser
reference
way.
thing, but it got it out of the way, and then was just like, okay, now let's do our own thing.
Let's do our own shitty thing. Yeah, like see
Well,
that
it's not
movie
shitty. The
was
problem was marketing showed off what their thing was, and then nobody was impressed by it.
also how horrible the whole Genesis concept was when you really think about it.
It could have been an entertaining movie if no one knew that twist.
It could have been an entertaining movie if the fight scenes were actually good.
That too, but I mean, well, there are some fun stuff. I don't know. Maybe I should give that movie another chance. It's on Amazon Prime, but
I'll watch it again eventually. I
Yeah.
know I'll do like a franchise marathon when they reboot it again somehow, because they have to. You can't let a franchise die. I mean, look at this movie. Like instead, they weren't satisfied with the 3 shows. They're like 3 seasons. So yeah, let's make a movie. Let's make a franchise of movies. Let's make a spin-off show. Let's make a series of movies for that show.
well, hopefully Star Trek 3 won't be slavish to this movie the same way it was with the last J.J. Abrams one. So if that's the case, then hopefully I'll be happy. Yeah.
No, I think the Beyond subtitle means that it's going beyond anything that was currently established.
Well,
I
it might
think
be referencing the original series because it's based on that, where they go on that 5-year mission, I think, and they just explore new worlds. But I really want to see it.
this isn't a bad movie. I would be crazy to say it's bad. It's just maybe it was because of the crazy hype going into it, or just the pop cultural knowledge of what was going to happen, or the fact of how hammy, fucking James Kirk is here. You know what the T stands for in his name?
Totally, yeah, Tiberius.
I've been to Tiberias in Israel. It's a lake.
Okay.
So when I was there, I was like, this is really cool. I'm pretty sure that's what his name comes from. It has to be a biblical reference. I don't know. But yeah, this is so old-fashioned despite being set in the future. Like, this is 2 years after Empire. It's a year before Jedi. It's only like 2 years before Back to the Future. It came out, I think, like the same year Gremlins did. And yet, all those other movies I referenced, like those seem like 80s movies, like straight up 80s movies. The way they look, the way they sound, just how iconic they are, the pop culture sensibilities. And here, when I'm watching this, it seems like it's out of the 70s. It still seems like it's really old fashioned.
I am cool with that, honestly.
I'm
it's
okay with that.
Yeah, and
it's
this is though like a very low budget movie in comparison to those. I mean, I think this might be the same budget as Gremlins, or hell, even the same budget as E.T. Like they literally made it so cheap in comparison to that first movie because that first movie was just so badly received. And I mean, yeah, they just stripped this down of like most of the sets. There really aren't that many sets that you see in this when you think about it. And
no, yeah, it's 2 ships, a planet, and a base.
It's a very dynamic, like well-paced movie that is just focused on characters, and it has a really good score from James Horner to back it up. Which, by the way, this was his first like really big break. Like he had other stuff, but this was the first really big one that he did, and then it led him to Aliens, and it just led to James Horner being the James Horner we all know and love today. Rest in peace, by the way.
Love today, yeah. Well, he got one more movie coming out this year, Magnificent Seven.
Yep,
so.
I really can't wait.
I'm guessing because this is your pick that you'd buy this one for $1. I know for a fact you have bought this movie.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, this isn't a movie that I loved right away. It was just one that grew on me though over time, and there's still. It's not my favorite Star Trek movie, but I definitely, sure, if you want to call this one the best one, then you can. I do rewatch it sometimes just for comfort. I mean, there really isn't much to say because this has already stood the test of time. I mean,
It's your pick. I don't know.
Yeah, well, you know why I picked this.
I know why you picked it, but I said it's your pick. I don't know. It's not the same.
I don't. I do. Yeah, I do realize I say a lot during podcasts, and I don't know where that comes from. Sometimes it really just doesn't make sense. I just unconsciously say it, so it's a filler words that come out of nowhere.
I'll definitely watch this again. I know I will, because I enjoyed it, and perhaps once I slip into senility, I won't know that so and so dies, and I can enjoy it with fresh eyes because. That is the beauty about going to the theater in something's initial release, that you get the surprise.
Yeah.
Unless you got fucking assholes that on your social media that ruin things.
Or just people that tell you that something's not going to be there and you're one step ahead of them and it's there. I mean, that's a problem with 21st century movie going.
But when you get to experience something the way it's intended to, when you go in blind, if you haven't seen a trailer or a billboard, and you get to see it like the way that the artist intended you to, when it's a film going experience, there's something special there. So I wish I could experience that with this one.
I mean, this is yeah, it's similar kind of for me, except I've seen this many times. But it's kind of like how I watch Citizen Kane now, where you're kind of underwhelmed by the first viewing, even though you don't necessarily hate it. But
Yeah, I think
when
I've
you
seen it like 3
rewatch
times
it,
now.
yeah, when you rewatch it later on down the line, you just kind of see why it works. And it really isn't until like there's just some point later where you know how it works so well, and then just at some point there's a viewing where you're just completely lost in it in like a way that people kind of were when they saw it for the first time. I don't
See, I didn't understand why people called like Citizen Kane the best movie of all time or a perfect film the first time I saw it, because I was looking for something amazing. It's not an amazing movie. It's just it's so coherent, so solid. There's no bad moments. There's no bad performances. There's interesting visual imagery. There's like good ideas there. It's a true story about someone that tries to censor the movie. Like how many things it has going for it. The fact that it's someone's first filmmaking attempt.
Yeah.
When you look at all of that in
It
perspective,
literally is like kind of a perfect movie that defines what filmmaking is, even if it's
Exactly.
not your favorite movie of all time.
Yeah, it's not-
It really informed modern visual language or everything that came out afterwards.
it's not my favorite movie. I don't think it's a lot of people's favorite movies, but you have to respect it for
Yeah.
what it was and when it was.
Historically, it's had an influence on everything that was made that you love.
Yeah. And this is kind of revered in a certain way in the blockbuster circles. I mean,
This is also the one that saved the entire franchise. Like, if it wasn't for this movie, because the first one was so hated when it came out. So, if it wasn't for this, you wouldn't have the J.J. Abrams one now. You wouldn't have the Next Generation.
yeah.
It probably...
You should really check out the Next Generation.
I
It was
will.
on Netflix
Someday
a while
I will.
ago.
Yeah, I
There's
know it's
some
on
really-
Amazon Prime.
There's some real awesome episodes. It's just a lot more fun version of Star Trek. Like this movie is 100% serious. There's there's a
It's a
joke
movie
here or
about
there.
death, so
You
yeah,
get
it's
that
pretty
fucking
serious.
line towards the end where Bones is like, "Are you out of your Vulcan mind?" It's like, that's a funny way to skate past that
Well, yeah,
vulgarity.
Bones is the comic relief, a smart comic relief at that.
We see on the Next Generation, it's like everyone's comedic. Like Data is a funny guy, like big time. Everyone except what's his name? I don't even want to remember his name. They bring this kid on board, who you've seen Vision Quest, right?
No, I haven't.
No, we should have done that instead for Death Cinema. We'll do that soon. But they Vision Quest is basically like a fan fiction version of the Next Generation. But anyway, they bring this kid whose name escapes me currently onto George-Luc Picard adopts him onto the ship, and then this show follows him for a couple years, and then he's in the movies too. But they I think they killed him off. But he's just an annoying fucking character. There's nothing. I don't think anyone who's the character on the show where it's oh, we got a lot of teenage viewers. Let's get a teenage kid on the show so they can relate to someone. Let's get them love interest. It was one of those things because it's the 80s. So fucking weird. Thanks for listening. We hope it's been a pleasure. If you like this show and you want to hear more of our wonderful voices on a weekly basis, check out 2 Cents. I'll recap what's happened in film, TV, and tech news.
We're also on the titular Dollar Review Show, a spoiler-free critique of new releases or anything we've discovered on our own, whether that be TV, music, etc.
You can find all of our content at dollarreviews.net. Follow us on Twitter or like us on Facebook at Dollar Reviews.
And we're also on Google Play Music, iTunes, Pocket Cast, TuneIn, Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube, just about anywhere on the internet with hours of content available to you for free. But for those of you that feel that the show is worth your dollar, you can send us a donation at patreon.com/dollarreviews. Contributions not only earn our undying love, but they also make it possible for us to improve our recording equipment and to give you the highest quality episodes possible. But more importantly, they'd be helping us acquire the content to review. Trips to the multiplex are expensive, and the more donations we receive, the more films we can review for your listening pleasure.
If you listen somewhere we're currently not available, you'd like to contribute some talking points, send a Death to Cinema request, or if you just want to laugh at us, you can do so by reaching out to us on social media or send an email to brian@dollarreviews.net.
Or you can email me as well, steve@dollarreviews.net.
You can follow me personally on Twitter at Brian Gillis, that's BRYONGILLIS, and now you know how to spell the email too, and also under the same name on the lovely site Letterboxd, which acts as my film diary, where I rate films I'm watching, write the occasional review, and even sometimes compile lists.
You can also find me on Twitter at S_MTX, and also follow my film diary at Letterboxd under the same name, where I log everything I watch, and sometimes write brief reviews.
That's it for this week. Until next time, keep the change.